The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Busch.
The year was 2001, and Kevin VanDam was fishing in his 11th Bassmasters Classic. Unbelievably, he had finished in the top 10 5 times in the Classic already. He wasn't going to settle for top 10 this time. 3 days, 3 5-fish limits, and Kevin had won his first Classic. Not one to rest on his laurels, Kevin continued to work hard and compete with intensity. No win since the Classic, but a solid performance that pushed his earnings near the $1.25 million mark, easily qualifying him for the Elite 50. In the Elite 50, Kevin sees an opportunity to apply his talent and consistency in a big way, and success comes quickly. Through the first 2 tournaments and 2 days into the third, he catches a limit in each of the 10 fishing days. The E50 is all about consistency, and VanDam's got it. As a result, he's got the points lead. His nearest pursuer is Stacy King of Missouri, the veteran bass angler whose career has been an example of consistency as well, especially over the last 3 seasons. During that time, he's put together plenty of points, including a win at Toledo Bend, a second-place finish this year at Lake Guntersville, all to make it into the E50. A setback at day 2 of this E50 tournament on the Alabama River. Yeah, you could call it that. Stacy says that he and photographer Gerald Crawford were shot at by a gunman on the bank. Serious stuff that kind of makes the fishing day go away.
The guy walked about halfway down to us, and then he turned around and went back to the house, went in the house. And just a second later, he comes back out again. He's got a rifle, and he levels down, and he fired a shot, and I thought he was shooting at something maybe up in a tree that first time. You know, I thought he saw a bird or something he was shooting at. And then he took and he laid down about 8 or 10 shots in rapid fire right across my bow and almost hit Gerald Crawford's boat out there. Just the shots were just splashing water all around his boat out there.
But stick around. Stacy will be back on day 3 of the E50 competition here in Prattville. And Kevin VanDam may not be able to run away from the field. All right, how about it? We are ready to go with day 3 fishing, tournament number 3 of the E50 series. I'm Tommy Sanders. Jerry McInnes is here. And Jerry, pretty scary stuff there with Stacy King, and kind of a deja vu. Takes us back to last year, the Classic. Gary Klein, another alleged shooting incident on the bank with a gunman. It's very disturbing.
I think alleged is the important word there. However, Stacy was... Well, he wasn't by himself.
No,
you know, Gerald Crawford, one of the BASS photographers, was right there with him. So something strange happened.
As yet, no arrests have been made. No charges have been filed. We'll be back here in these chairs again next week and keep you updated on that. You can bet on that. A lot of stuff going on today, though.
Yeah, and you know, the most important maybe is the points, the E50 points. You know, Tommy, we've got 4 events within the E50 series. It's like an event within the event. The big payday comes on the last day, and we're only a half a dozen days away from that big event, and it will be the biggest payout ever at a Bassmaster event.
$1.6 million. Woo. Let's take a look at these point standings right now. Consistency through the 4 events, and the man on top is Kevin VanDam, 844 points. Look at that, almost 50 points back. Stacy King coming in today, his closest pursuer, and we will keep up with that. And as we mentioned, we alluded to, that could change today as well. We'll find out. Kevin VanDam fishing in our top 12 today. Stacy King is not, but things can happen. Let's get on out to the Alabama River. Of course, we were there last year on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour. The Alabama River formed by the confluence of the Tallapoosa and the Coosa Rivers. The Coosa River, very famous up that tributary. It's where Jay Ellis locked down the Angler of the Year title last year. Farther up on Lay Lake, Jay Ellis, he won the Bassmasters Classic. Well, on day 1 of this event, several anglers showed up in aluminum boats. Jay Ellis right there was one of them. Aluminum boats with the jet drive motors looking to head up the Coosa tributary and try their luck. A lot involved in this, avoiding the big rocks, running through the shallow water, fighting the heavy-duty current. Mike Iaconelli, one of the guys having a lot of fun on this day, getting upstream. And Jay Ellis probably thinking about the results he got here last year, but not everyone thought a lot of this plan.
The way I look at it is, if they kill him up there, there's only 4 guys going to be in the top 12 with them, so we'll just have to see. There's going to be a big boat tournament and a small boat tournament. And, you know, my goal is to try to win the big boat tournament.
I'm about sick of these jet boats. I mean, I'm going to start bringing an airboat if it keeps going the way it is. You know, it just doesn't seem like a level playing field. The guys that have the jet boats are going to get to water that the rest of us can't. You know, there's no rule against it. I just don't like it.
Aluminum boats, it turned out, weren't the only things that made Bernie Schultz's hair stand on end. He had an encounter with lightning.
It happened so quick, there's really not much to say, Fish. All I can tell you is usually when you see a flash, you hear the sound a little later. Well, it all came at one time, and everything was white. And right after it happened, everything was crackling right around me in the boat, and my rod, my hair.
Did you think you were dead?
No, I didn't think I was dead, but it definitely, it was hard to describe.
The results from the anglers running up the Coosa turned out to be small potatoes. The big limits were turned in by first-day leader Davey Height, 18 pounds and 3 ounces. 17. The veteran Tommy Biffle turned up in second place. 14. The winner last time out in Mississippi, Mark Davis, he's in the hunt as well.
15. Let's take a look at an Alabama.
And look who else is hanging in there, the E50 points leader, Kevin VanDam. VanDam threatening to go all the way in this one, too, and extend his points lead. As day 2 of fishing got underway, naturally, a lot of attention was focused on the man himself, Kevin VanDam. His attempt to catch the 10th straight limit in E50 competition. For Biffle and Hyde, it was knowing that they just needed a couple of good keepers to advance to the 3rd round and the top 12. They got that easily.
Right there. That fish right there will put me in. Good fish. That's the one I need. Whew. Had to do it.
And there they are, your top 12 who will fish day 3. It is a star-studded list to be sure. Tommy Biffle on top, the 2-day total of 28 pounds and 3 ounces. Hyde is in there, Peter Thilveros, Kevin VanDam. There's your Citgo Angler of the Year, Gerald Swindle, Mark Davis, the winner last time out, Denny Brower. We always have a star-studded field, though, in these E50 competitions. The stage is set. 12 will fish, trying to make it to the final 6. We'll get things underway when we come back. Stay with us.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Busch. By Motor Guy. And by Skeeter.
There it is, the Alabama River, the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail presented by Busch. This is the Elite 50 Series, event number 3 of this 4-tournament series. We're working out of Prattville, Alabama. We have fished for 2 days, qualifying days with a full field of 50, and now we are down to 12 anglers for this 3rd day of fishing. They're all heading out to their holes, a 6-hole course that these anglers will be fishing today. And gosh, you think Dean Rojas feels that somehow he's being watched? I don't know where he gets that idea, but a lot of eyes actually are on these anglers today. A lot of points at stake and a big day coming up. Dean Rojas, all our guys really excited to get the fishing started on day 3 here and excited about our course.
I'm excited.
I'm excited. Tell us about it.
Hey, this course is on the river. It's 18 miles now. That's a course.
Long and lean.
18 mile long course. Hole number 1, all the way down there at the end, hole number 4. We could consider those backwaters. The rest of it is all river. The guys are going to be right out in that current fishing. We'll have 2 boats in each hole. They'll fish there for an hour and 20 minutes and then rotate until we get the whole course covered.
All right, we are covering the top 7 of our 12 qualifiers for today, which means we got 5 guys we don't have cameras with. They are not insignificant guys. This includes Jim Bitter, Denny Brower. We got Edwin Evers out there, Greg Hackney, Mark Davis, who won our last event. So be aware that everything's unofficial as we watch, and there could be things behind the scenes going on that we don't know about.
You know what? We're covering some pretty heavy hitters ourselves, too.
Including Tommy Biffle, our number 1 qualifier.
And you know what? Tommy is starting over here in hole number 1, and I think that could be one of the more productive holes. Again, it is more backwater, and it is right at the ramp where that fish almost found his way back to the lake. Wouldn't that be a way to start the day? Catch about a 2.5-pounder and let him go. Oh my, that'd be awful. But anyhow, Tommy is started in one of the better holes, and of course he is pitching that black and blue jig back in the cover.
I'm fishing the river. I've been fishing the river. I hadn't fished any backwater. I hadn't even been in any backwater during the whole tournament. but they're going to turn that water loose, and I figured they're going to turn it loose this morning. It's going to take a few hours for it to get here, so I want the river holes to be my last holes all day when that current really gets to cranking. So that was the reason that I picked hole 1.
Check in now with Todd Auten. Todd Auten from Lake Wiley, South Carolina. That's the place where they're going to hold the Bassmasters Classic this summer. So, Todd, very much looking forward to qualifying for that.
And Todd, like everyone else, is kind of feeling his way because no one has fished on. This has been off limits to these guys ever since they got here, so it's all new to all 12 anglers.
It's a good starter right there.
Todd Auten fishing there in hole number 1, the same hole as Tommy Biffle, right out there from the launch. You could probably see him, actually, from where we launched this morning. Over to Peter Thilveros. Peter is out on the river, a real river hole number 6.
He's out on the river, but there seems to be no current on the river yet, and you're gonna hear these guys, Tommy, whining all day long about no current. They really like the current because it positions the fish where they can figure them out a lot easier. It actually makes the fish very active and it gets them into position where they will strike a little better.
Been throwing my lucky bait all week. An 8-inch zoom dead ringer in green pumpkin on 14-pound Stren fluorocarbon. Texas rig, the old Florida way. I hadn't fished Florida style in so long. I made a comment to my partner earlier this week that I feel like I've almost forgotten how to fish the way I grew up and don't do it. And I just happened to pick it up and start throwing it and started catching all these good fish this week. So I figured if it's not broke, it doesn't need repair.
Keep her moving.
Our Angler of the Year for 2004, Gerald Swindle, always has words of wisdom for us.
Mighty. I drawed air. He was swimming out with, about throw him back out. I can't have them blanks. That's like dry firing a bow. That's tear stuff up bad, dude. They got to be on there when I jerk. Something's got to give. God, freaking bait. Swimming down the bank with it. Big old cottonmouth jump down here on you, dude. I'll be filming myself, will I not?
Yes, you will.
Wasn't no daggone brim air. We're burning down the bank with it at 100.
Gerald Swindle will regroup. We go over to Todd Auten fishing the buzzbait here, and there you see those lily pads. Quite a remarkable little spot he has right here. And pads like this, you'll only find on hole number 1 of this course.
Boy, you know there's some fish in those lily pads right there. And I keep thinking about Peter T talking about his Texas rig, and I wanted to go back and explain that a Texas rig is a plastic worm with a slip sinker and a hook buried back in the worm that makes it very weedless.
There's one. Probably should come in here earlier.
These pads are going to see several buzzbaits during the day, as long as it stays cloudy anyway. And buzzbait is such a good bait to search with. And remember now, this is all new water to these guys. They are searching.
Here he comes.
Got a huge air show going on just around the corner at the big Montgomery Air Force Base, so there is a lot of noise, a lot of sound and fury above today, and fishing below.
Wow. When I win this tournament and get rich, I'm going to buy one of those, and that way I can load my boat and truck in the back of it, just fly to these tournaments. Wouldn't take near as long to get there.
No, it would not, Pete. He has figured out his transportation problems right there. Hey, we're just getting started. When we return, we're going to introduce you to Kermit the Frog. The Elite 50 competition on the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail presented by Busch. This is the 3rd of our 4-event series. We are on the Alabama River. And on this 3rd day of fishing competition, we're down to 12 anglers, 2 by 2 in each of the 6 holes on our tournament course, and that's a frog.
That is Kermit the Frog.
Yes, yes.
Hey, most of our guys are pitching tubes, our plastic worms, our jigs up against the bank. Hey, we saw a buzzbait already, but Dean Rojas is about to introduce us to Kermit the Frog, who is a very weedless plastic, actually a sumo frog is the trade name. And this little guy, you know, with the bass still protecting a little bit of their fry and still in very shallow water, this is a very good choice to get out there and get things stirred up. Tommy, is that the most sexy frog you ever seen?
I guess so. Yep, I'd say so.
Well, here's the deal. Remember last week when we showed you some pretty fancy casting from Kevin VanDam? Well, I want you to check out Rojas here. These are overhanging limbs in front of him. 15 foot all the way back to that bank. That's where the fish are. So Dean skips his lure under these limbs. There's no way on earth could you cast Kermit to the bank right here unless, like a flat rock,
so I try to position
you just
myself
skipped him under there. Look, that cast right there went completely out of sight. There's another one that went through a hole, probably went 10 or 12 feet back.
God. Well, from Kermit the Frog to Davy Height, the bass fisherman.
Holy
At least
cow.
he's trying to be a bass fisherman.
This is a mean dude here. And he's got teeth.
Yeah, he's a mudfish, a grinnell, a cypress trout. I've heard him called all of those. He will not fool Trip Weldon back at the weigh-in.
Now, that wasn't nice of him. A prehistoric fish just gave me a bath, and I'm trying to win the Elite 50 here in Montgomery, Prattville, Alabama, and I can't get no cooperation out of the bass.
Well, an hour and 20 minutes has gone by fast, so our teams are now rotating into their second hole on the 6-hole course now. We're going to, through the course of the day, try to check in with our points leader, Kevin VanDam, as often as we can. We'll check in with Kevin right now, and I know you're focusing on current, really hoping for them to turn on, start generating some water at these dams upstream. And I wish you'd explain to us, Kevin, when they start turning the wheels, start generating that water, how that makes it possible for you to catch more spotted bass.
Well, it creates a lot of current, and when there's no current at all, the fish just basically suspend over the drops and stuff. You can see the shad are way off the bottom, and it makes them real hard to catch. They just kind of roam around, where when the current is there, it positions the fish on the points, waiting for balls of shad to come by and stuff.
Well, Kevin, tell us what worked for you best during the first 2 days of competition in the tournament. Was it this pattern, the waiting for the current to come on and really using it to catch those spotted bass?
Yeah, the first day I caught them all on moving water with a Strike King Series 5 crankbait. It runs about 10 feet deep, and I was fishing a lot of 6 to 10 foot sandbars and gravel bars and things like that, that had current on them, and that's what those fish were keying on.
Well, let's talk about the points race, Kevin, for just a moment or two here. You have really done your job. Each fishing day of this Elite 50 series, you have caught your limit of fish, and as a result, you got a substantial lead.
Yeah, that's all you try to do is go out and do the best that you can in every event, and I've been pretty fortunate so far. I mean, I really had to work hard to catch my fish in this tournament here especially. The other tournaments, I had a pretty good idea I was going to catch some fish going in, but this one here, I just really didn't know, just because of the situation like we were talking about with the water. So, and it's important for me to get them today too, in the finals here to keep up. So we'll see what happens. I haven't had a bite yet, so.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to check with you a little bit later, probably at not this next hole, but the one after that, and see how things are going then. All right?
Okay, sounds good.
Well, our first period of fishing is complete. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Todd Ott and Peter Thilveros on top right now, very, very early on. Remember, everyone started from 0 today. The top 6 from today out of the 12 are going to advance to the final round. In that first period of fishing, 9 fish were caught from the anglers whom we are covering today. Remember, 5 we're not covering.
Now, Dean Rojas has benched Kermit and began throwing a Lure Jensen speed trap, real shallow running crankbait, in hole number 1. Hole number 1's popular so far, and a fish, as you can plainly see, has wrapped him in those pilings. Dean is doing what everyone should do in this situation, and that's give the fish no slack line and be very patient. That's about your only chance. This is going to be a challenge for Dean.
It's a giant. Come here. Yes! Yes! Boy, you ran me through the woods. Yeah. Speed trap, baby. I'm shaking like a leaf. I thought I was gonna lose him. He ran me through the woods and... Yeah.
Nice pig.
That's making the show, baby. That's going to the show. Yeah. Yes. Couldn't wait to get into this hole because I knew this is where the big ones are at. Hey, what time did I say? 12 o'clock. What time is it? 11:55. What'd I say? The big ones eat.
We don't know who those guys are on top of the bridge there, but they certainly got their money's worth today, especially when you consider they didn't pay anything.
Whew. Something told me to pick up that speed trap and throw in these pylons.
Dean Rojas is just warming things up, so stick around. The Elite 50, the top 50 anglers from the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail presented by Busch. This is their third of 4 events. We've got 12 anglers on our 6-hole course trying to make the cut to be the final 6 who'll fish for the top points here. And they're all being treated to an air show going on nearby, very close by, around the corner at the Montgomery Air Force Base.
And Davey Height was on the river, as is Gerald Swindell, where things will probably pick up a little bit when they start running more water. 4 of our 6 holes are actually on the river.
He was down behind the limb when I jerked, he wouldn't move. About to have a heart attack. I was like, he ain't moving. Whew. Oh, Lord. It's kind of telling me something. They're both deep, though. They're not. In practice, they were real shallow out here on the wood. The current would be ripping, and you could get up there in 2 to 4 foot of water and flip that cover. And, man, they was aggressive. And these last 2 bites, I've actually pitched to the cover and fished it on out. You know, the bait last one hit in 10 foot of water. The first one I caught hitting about 10 or 12 foot. So it's kind of telling me with no current, they have slowed down and just out on the ends of them. You got to just fish the jig out. It's going to take a little more time, but it's a great way to catch a big fish.
Dealing with the rivers, dealing with currents, and trying to find some big fish.
And we're looking at Peter T right now, and Tommy, it occurs to me that this format may be the ultimate challenge to a bass fisherman. It's all about finding fish. You know, in a normal tournament, you can find a few fish and then go there every day or just sit there all day on them. This particular format, we make you move. You fish in one hole for an hour and 20 minutes, as we've said many times, and then you have to go find some more. Boy, how about the fish Tommy Biffle is catching? Every single one of them are quality fish.
Tommy Biffle, who has not won since 1994. He's still one of the top guys. He performs very consistently year in and year out, but he's looking for a win.
Tommy Biffle keeping the pressure on with that black and blue jig, but I want to take a look at Dean Rojas's speed trap right here, which was a pretty interesting lure to a 4 or 5 pounder hanging around those timbers a little bit earlier. And this is simply a very shallow running crankbait that kind of surprises a fish when it runs by him. And you can really say this is a reaction strike off of this particular lure. And a reaction strike is one that a fish makes before he knows what he's doing. I guess that's a pretty good explanation, Tommy.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation of a reaction strike. And that fish right there, of course, puts Dean Rojas on top. We're still very early on, a lot more fishing to come. We're staying on top of a few things for you here today. Remember, we are not covering 5 of our 12 anglers today. Some pretty big names among those 5 as well. So everything we see is unofficial with regard to scores and differential between anglers there. And also a thing we're staying on top of is points. 5 points is what you get when you can lead this tournament for one fishing day. That's so important. That's what's kept Mark Davis in this race. Boy. Absolutely. He bombed out the first tournament. He led wire to wire when we went to Mississippi, so 5 points is a big deal.
That was 20 points out of that deal. That was a pretty good deal. Hey, we are done with round number 2. We have the opportunity now to go back and look at hole number 1. We had Todd Oughton, Dean Rojas, Tommy Biffle. All 3 of those anglers have been through hole number 1. So let's take a look at their tracks now, and we're going to see some similarities, and we're going to see one guy doing something completely different. You know, Rojas and Oughton both fished the pier near the point going into Cobb's Creek. That's where Dean caught that big fish, as a matter of fact. Biffle passed this little area up. He spent most of his time on the west bank and around that island there in Still Creek. But the best catch of the day was actually not that big grinnell that Davey Height caught. It was Kevin VanDam and this particular catch.
Look at this size.
Okay, Kevin is flipping cover with plastics, and, well, bass aren't the only creatures that live around that cover, and they're not the only creatures that chase worms and grubs. Well, coming up, we'll go back to the game fish, the one we were starting on today, the bass. We'll take a look at Tommy Biffle, his jig underwater, and see what rounds 3 and 4 have in store for us. Hey, this is all new water to all of us. Bassmaster Trail presented by Busch. This is the very first Elite 50 Series, event 3 of our 4-event series on the Alabama River. Now, the first 2 qualifying days, our Elite 50 anglers had the run of the place. A lot of miles to run up and down the river. Now they're cut down to about 18 miles on our 6-hole course. Here's Gerald Swindle.
Did you see? 3-pounder, dude.
No, Gerald Swindle, 3 fish today, but not much size to them. He really needs to kick it into another gear. And Jerry, we're seeing some good fish caught, Biffle, Rojas, but we're also seeing a lot of fish lost today.
Well, you know what? That's kind of the nature of a spotted bass fishery. There's a lot of big fish around. There's a lot of small ones. Maybe those are small ones that are hitting these guys. I want to take a look at Tommy Biffle's jig, though, and Biffle fishes a black and blue, or a black, solid black, rattleback jig, and this lure seems to always produce quality fish day in and day out. If you're watching it today, most of his fish have been dandies.
There should be one right there.
And this bait is heavy now. The jig that he's fishing is probably a ½ ounce. And most of these banks are really undercut on the river, so the lure needs to drop down quickly, close to the bank and into that cover and get to the bottom in a hurry. Really needs to get down there. This is the perfect place. This is like you see in a book. All this cover and the current come around the main river point. Man, you need to spend some quality time there.
Yes. Yes. Woo. I knew I didn't get a good hook set on him, and I just had to keep him coming. It's good fish. All right. I knew there had to be one there. That's a prime place right there on the point of this creek. Real deep undercut bank right there.
Well, we've come to the end of period number 3, and really not much change on top of our leaderboard there. Dean Rojas, a shade ahead of Tommy Biffle. Both of these guys with only 3 fish, but each one has 3 quality fish, and that's the difference between them and the rest of the field. We're also staying in touch with the point situation, and our points leader is Kevin VanDam. So we go to Kevin, and I want to ask you, Kevin, a format like the Elite 50, which really rewards consistency, has got to be tailor-made for a guy like you.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to make the cuts and stuff like that, but I still want to win. I can tell you I was real disappointed at the last one to not come out of there. Even though Mark did a phenomenal job, you know, I had the opportunities there, and that's tough. But I like it because it fits my style. You know, you gotta really cover water in these finals and learn the holes and fish fast, and that's perfect for me.
Another thing I think you probably got to love about the Elite 50 is the fact that you have extra elbow room. You're a guy who likes a lot of room to run around and fish. We start with only 50 guys. After 2 days of fishing, we're down to 12, and maybe if you can make things happen, down to 6.
It's real nice. You know, I'd love to be able to make it till tomorrow. I'm going to have to get some quality bites, or get some bites, period. It's real tough. I'm sure the other guys have found it to be fairly tough, too. First thing, when it was cloudy, I bet you hole 1 and hole 4 were really on fire. Those are the 2 best largemouth holes, and we had some good cloud cover then, but now it's bright and sunny and really not any clouds.
Well, Kevin, thanks so much. We'll check back with you. I tell you what, after a couple of more holes of fishing, and if things are looking good, maybe we can talk about the holes you might choose to fish in first tomorrow, okay?
Okay.
Well, we're checking periodically with KVD, and his dauber seems a little bit down to me. It shouldn't be. Boy, look at the scoreboard here. Look at the overall point scoreboard. He is the man to beat, and that was going into today. We're, of course, going to update it at the end of the show. Kevin VanDam is in awful good shape.
All right, back out to Todd Auten, who's had some success early today.
And he's got some fans on the bank there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know what? Him and Tommy Biffle are real threats. They are solid bass fishermen.
Oh.
Fifth fish for Todd Auten. He is hanging in there with Biffle and Rojas.
That's a cold one.
And I think it's important to point out that he and Tommy Biffle keep their baits in really good water.
When I look in there, it's just brand
And I tell you what, a funny thing going on right here, Tommy. In the back of Tommy's boat right now is Trip Weldon, tournament director, and he's out there working on Tommy's aerator.
Come here, big boy. Yes.
He doesn't catch any small fish, does he? There's Trip.
My good tournament director, Trip Weldon, here is adjusting my live wells for me. Yes. That'll work.
Now, Trip Weldon, will he stay with you all day if you just request him to, if you need extra things done around the boat like Tommy there?
I think so. Trip doesn't have anything else to do, does he?
Yeah, he's got all the time in the world.
Hey, he's on his way in just a minute here, but Tommy would love to have him stay with him. I want to talk to you about that current one more time. We're fishing in a pool that's 96 miles long, from Jordan Lock and Dam all the way down to Jones Bluff Lock and Dam. And they generate electricity. So when they turn the dam on, there is some water going to come into this pool and go out of this pool. So that's what they talk about. I hope they turn the water in. It takes about 2 hours for that to affect us because Cooter's Pond is right in the middle of that. And I'm telling you what, Davey Height has not caught a fish all day long until possibly right now. Tommy, they must have turned the water on.
Maybe that's what happened.
About time.
Huh?
About time. Boy, you hit it, I thought it was a big one.
Well, as it is, it's not that bad a fish, and hey, it gets him off the schneid, that's for sure. Over to Dean Rojas now. Dean Rojas, the man who holds the record with the Bassmaster's single largest one-day 5-fish limit, 45 pounds and 2 ounces.
45 pounds. He probably won't catch that today.
No.
But we are enjoying watching him cast, and he's putting old Kermit as far back under those trees as he possibly can. And there is what is very likely to happen when you get the bait back in that kind of cover.
But he's a keeper, and I will take him.
All right, Kermit, pressure is on. I'll tell you what, the way Kermit is being presented is pretty strong. 2 more holes to go. A charge from Kevin VanDam, maybe Davey Height. Is that in the cards? Our air show is no distraction. There's just too much going on the water. Kermit, Dean Rojas, they're going to put on the show of the day and show you the catch of the day when we come back.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
The Alabama River is no stranger to crowning champions and high-stakes events. Find out more when we return. In 1981 and 1982, the Alabama River was host to the Citgo Bassmaster Classic, and in each of those events, something special came out of them. The 1981 event, won by Stanley Mitchell, was the first Citgo Bassmaster event to award its champion more than $100,000. And in 1982, when Paul Elias won, he introduced a new concept in tournament angling. It's known as the Kneel and Reel Retrieve, where Elias won the event by submerging into the water his entire rod down to the handle to get his deep diving crankbait to go deeper.
Oh, the Elite 50 are the top 50 anglers from the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail, presented by Busch, and we are here on the Alabama River. 4 events. This is event number 3. We're getting right down to it. And our leader today on this final day of fishing on the Alabama River right now, Tommy Biffle. He's got the limit in the boat.
We said right up front that Biffle and Todd Auten were solid, steady. And, of course, Todd is working so hard because, again, At the end of the E50 series, the top 10 will qualify for the Classic. Todd is looking good for those overall points, and the Classic is being held on his home lake, Tommy, so that's why it's so important to him. These guys are all using 7-foot rods, using nothing under about 20-pound test line, and it allows them to present their baits a lot better, that heavier equipment. Look out here, Davey.
Davey Height, you talk about a great season. He is our Horizon Award winner for Most Improved Angler.
I saw him get it. It was a 3-pounder. He got it and just ran off. And I mean, he come up and got it and just turned and went away. I thought I was going to snatch his head around.
Davey Height missing the 3-pounder. Some other guys catching some big fish. It may be that they've got that water like you were talking about earlier. They may have it on.
They could be. We got a little current going out there, and Davey lost that good fish there a second ago on the plastics, and I believe he's throwing a crankbait right now, and this could make things look a little bit better for Davey. And you know what? I've seen guys go around the boat before, and you have too, and our audience has too, and you wonder, is the fish pulling them around the boat? Actually, they lead the fish around the boat. And that way, there's no pressure put on this fish. He does not want to lose this fish. Man, he's worked so hard for it, so even though it's not a large one, he just goes around and around and finally leads it into the boat.
I don't know if it's the same fish or not, but I'll sure take him. Number 2, let's see. And 2, let's see. Yeah. 2.5 days, I'll have a limit. Oh, man.
Hopefully it won't take that long. Davey Height, the former Classic champ, former Angler of the Year. He has done a lot of things in the world of fishing.
And he is a pleasure to be around. I'm glad he's catching some fish where we can visit with him a little bit here. He is such a good angler and such a fun guy, Tommy. He really is. And again, he is moving around the boat. Hey, this is a little bit bigger than that last one. But he's trying to wear the fish down, trying to not put any pressure on him, and lift him into the boat. Way to go, Davey.
That's the fish I missed just a minute ago right in there. Gave me a second chance. Good deal. Thanks. Oh, man. What a nice fish. 10-inch gamma worm, same worm I did so good on in Columbus. Beautiful.
Well, there's your scoreboard right there. We have a few limits here and there, but for most of our guys, some more work left to be done before the fishing day is complete. Again, there are 5 anglers that we don't know about that we're not covering today. We'll find out about them come weigh-in time, but we still think around 10 pounds, looking like that's going to be the cut line to make the final 6 who will fish on championship day. Biffle, the only guy with 10 pounds among the group we are covering so far. Davey Height, a guy who really needs to make a move. He needs to catch 2 more fish and make them 2 good fish in order to get going. Well, let's talk with Kevin VanDam, our points leader at this time, one more time for today. And Kevin, I wish you would tell us the kind of cover, the kind of situation you're looking for to catch these fish that you've been targeting all week long.
Well, because the current's on, even here in the back, you can notice it a little bit. So I'm trying to hit all these little secondary points that have a little bit of flow by them and try to find some cover. You know, it hasn't been that long ago that the fish spawned here, so they might still be staging a little bit. I know I'm close to a bunch of them. I can feel it. I just got to find them.
Now, well, what do you mean you can feel it?
Well, it's got all the right ingredients where I'm at right now. I'm at the mouth of a cut, and there's current coming out of it, and you know, it's fed by a big backwater, and the main river's out behind me, so I know that all the right ingredients are right here for a school of fish to be around. I just got to find the right little spot.
Well, Kevin, just 3 more good ones, and you're back in the game, so we'll let you fish on. You got a whole nother period left to fish, and good luck to you.
Hey, I appreciate it, Tommy. Maybe you can bring me some luck.
Hey, we're pulling for the guys in our group to make those finals next week. Come on, Davey Height. And Kevin VanDam still's got plenty of time left. Hey, here we go, Davey. And we've had anglers catch 3 fish in a hole already today, and we know VanDam can do it. And boy, Davey Height's on his way as well.
He did. He's leaking.
Well, Davey is feeling good. If 10 pounds is the magic weight, then Davey's just 1 fish away. He's got enough time to get the job done.
We're getting there, baby. Man, I better slow down. Keep messing around. I'm going to have to come out and fish again tomorrow. I was already planning on going to the air show. I guess for a few extra thousand I could fish, though, couldn't I? My wife would probably appreciate that.
Natalie Height will probably nix the Airshow plan. And Tommy Biffle continues to prove to, if he gets that fish out of the brush anyway, continues to prove to us that a jig around the cover over and over again will produce better quality fish.
He'll call that little one.
Now watch Rojas and Kermit show out for us. Dean makes his cast to the bank and double checks his depth finder by sticking his rod tip into the water to see how deep it is. At the same time, a big spot attacks Kermit the Frog with about 15 feet of slack line on the water. Dean, you lucky sucker, you should not have caught that fish.
Leroy, you paid off today. Finally. Scared the heck out of me. Yeah! That's 5.
Boy, Dean Rojas has thrilled us today, and as we watch it again, watch the lure at the right of the screen. Rod tip in the water. Surprise attack. Dean's brain kicks back in, and he's in business.
All right, Dean Rojas showing off there with the vertical leap. Dean, with that fish, ought to be able to make it in to fish with us next week to make it into the top 6. We're about to find out. The weigh-in is coming up very shortly here. Let's take a look at the Busch shootout and the best stringer of fish, the best limit so far. On day 1, Davey Height, 18 pounds and 3 ounces. That's not going to be good enough to break into the top 10 with one more day of fishing remaining. Now, the Pure Later Big Bass of the tournament, still by far, Kelly Jordan, 6 pounds, 9 ounces from day number 1 of this tournament. I don't think we've seen anything that's going to challenge that today. Again, one more day of fishing left to go. Now take a look at the second largest stringer of fish caught in this tournament. Stacy King, remember, places 13 through 50 fish on this third day of fishing in order to add to their points total for the 4-event series. Stacy King had the shooting incident on day number 2. He comes back strong, 18 pounds and 1 ounce. That is very, very significant. Stacy King was trailing Kevin VanDam in the points totals coming into this tournament by almost 50 points. Now he shoots up all the way into 13th place. So depending how Kevin VanDam does in the weigh-in, which is coming up, we will find out how our points race is shaping up. And the weigh-in is coming very, very soon. Look at the crowd already gathered here in Prattville, Alabama. We'll get it underway when we come back.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Busch Light. By Yamaha. And by Pure Later.
Welcome back. It's the Elite 50 of the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail presented by Busch. Which of our 12 anglers are going to make it to the final 6? We're about to find out. The crowd is in place, and we're ready to weigh them in. Here's Fish Fishburne.
Warm it up. Here we go. First angler checking in. Lenny Brower. Come on. Wait for Brower. 10 pounds, 13 ounces. Denny, does 10-13 keep you in the hunt?
It'll probably be close.
Welcome from Oklahoma, Edwin Evers. Come on in. Here comes the weight, 10 pounds and a deuce, 10-2. $1,000 fish, say yay or nay.
I'm hoping so. I need the money.
Come on, Mark Davis, let's go. 10 pounds, 3 ounces, 10-3. Oh, Marky, welcome Kevin VanDam. And a weight, 2 pounds and 8 ounces for VanDam, and listen to him.
I don't know what to say. I just couldn't catch him today. I just had one of those days.
Dean Rojas! He needs 7 pounds and 12 ounces to do the bump. Got it! 11 pounds, 12 ounces. A warm welcome for Todd Auden. Let's go! Todd Auden, 5 back, 12 pounds, 2 ounces. Todd Auden takes the lead right now. Show me Davey Height. He needs 8 pounds and a deuce to stay in the top 6 and compete tomorrow. Wait, 9 pounds, 12 ounces. You guys warm it up for Tommy Biffle. 13 pounds, 9 ounces. Give me one big round of applause for your Super 6 that'll be competing tomorrow.
So Tommy Biffle, Todd Auden, Dean Rojas, Denny Brower, Mark Davis, and Edwin Evers will move on to the final. Well, with that, there are 5 more fishing days left in the entire Elite 50 series. One more day on the Alabama River, and one more day that will not include Kevin VanDam or Stacy King, but both of them did things today that kind of swapped around the point situation. Kevin VanDam had the 50-point lead coming into this tournament. Stacy shot up to 13th today. Kevin went back all the way to 12th, so Stacy's just 10 points behind Kevin VanDam now. That's a big change.
And you're going to take those 6 anglers and send them out on my poor little defenseless course next week?
Well, you know, the course held up today. I bet it'll hold up one more time.
I do think that it's very significant that VanDam and Stacy King are not in the finals. That means that Mark Davis, Todd Auten, Tommy Biffle have a lot of room to catch up. Big payday coming up in what now? 5 more fishing days.
Yes, sir.
Just a little info about the course before we leave everybody. The number 1 hole, the most productive hole, was number 1. Caught 8 fish there today. Number 2 and number 6 were next in line. 7 fish came from each one of those holes. And the best period of the day was from 11:40 to 1 o'clock.
Right in the middle of the day.
Yep.
No one would guess it, and no one can guess who's going to win next week. Why don't you come on in and see? We're going to get our final 6 going on the Alabama River when the E50 continues. Same time next week. Join us then.
They're coming out.
That'll work right there.
Look at that.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to Bassmaster.com.